Welcome to Your Moment with Miguel Ramirez.
Hello, and welcome to Your Moment. My name is Miguel Ramirez, and on today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Yvonne Marquez. Yvonne Marquez is a research assistant at the University of California, Riverside, and the topic that is discussed is the opioid epidemic. Just to give an advisory, this subject matter is rather sensitive to some. It touches on drugs, drug addiction, and the following potential pitfalls and dangers that ensue around drug addiction. So if that is something that is potentially triggering to you, whether if it may elicit some kind of response negatively, please err on the side of caution when listening, because it is a rather serious discussion and it may cause certain feelings to some when listening. My interview with Yvonne Marquez. This is Miguel Ramirez, and I'm here with Yvonne Chamberlain to talk about a very important matter to her and something that I feel like should be highlighted and be aware to everyone. That is the opioid epidemic that is, existing in society. It may not, in terms of like mainstream awareness, may not be something that everyone is aware about. Yvonne, what can you tell me about the opioid epidemic?
Well, it is killing a lot of people and harming a lot of families. But I know in the United States, it's killing tens of thousands of people. I believe last year it killed over 50,000, closer to 55,000. And those are just overdose deaths. That's not accounting for people who overdose and don't die, or people who abuse opioids and never overdose, or it's never recorded. So the numbers are much larger than I think we actually realize.
And when it comes to opioids, for someone who, is hearing that and may be confused, what can you say for someone who may be, I guess, unaware or new to this type of epidemic going on?
So opioids start from heroin, which a lot of people know is a street drug, a very dangerous street drug. But the majority of opioids are prescription drugs, things like morphine, Vicodin, Norco, that are very commonly prescribed for mild to severe pain.
And when it's on a prescribed basis, like for the instances of knowing when someone can either use it for the wrong purposes versus the people who use it for the right purposes, if someone, has an injury, if someone, suffers something very, pain enduring, if they have, post-surgery, if they're dealing with the recovery process, a doctor would, advise, he should be on a certain type of prescription medication. But in instances where someone could abuse it, where do you see, someone developing a habit of addiction and going beyond what is a normally prescribed basis?
Yes, I think the doctors should be able to tell. For instance, now, at least in California, I'm positive of, pain medications prescribed over a certain length of time are required to be seen by a pain management doctor under most insurance companies. So there are pain management clinics that are set up specifically to prescribe an extremely addictive medication. They make their money off of people being addicted to this medication because every month they have to go back. They have to go to the same doctor to be able to be prescribed this medication. If a person with an injury or recovery or whatever the situation that required them to start taking this medication in the first place is prolonged, a doctor should be able to identify when a patient's healed and when they've really become addicted. And it is up to the doctor to help that patient get off of that medication. It's affecting everybody. It is affecting everybody. And it is definitely affecting younger kids. If they see their parents prescribe this medication and they see their parents abusing this medication, they're going to grow up thinking that that's normal. This is medication. This helps mommy or daddy. And then that's where it starts.
In terms of the amount of people that can obtain this, not solely being prescription based, is it something that is being, the next easily obtainable street drug?
Yeah, it's extremely easily obtainable. Fentanyl is heavily distributed on the streets, and it is extremely lethal. When there's a call for an overdose, cops and paramedics wear gloves because even touching it, you can overdose. It happened, I don't remember the details, but a cop barely grazed some powder residue that was left on a car, and he suffered an overdose from it.
By touching
it. Yeah, just touching the stuff.
Wow.
It's extremely dangerous.
And when it comes to people having legal access to these prescription drugs like fentanyl, should there be more strict parameters to how someone can obtain these drugs?
There are. You have to go to one doctor. You have to go to one pharmacy. Oftentimes, these pain management clinics will drug test you. If, for instance, if you show up with heroin or methamphetamine or another heavy drug, they will discontinue. If you show up with marijuana in your system without a prescription, they can discontinue you from your pain medication. People can do all the right things from the doctor. They can go to the same doctor. They can tell the doctor every single thing that their body is going through. They can go to the same pharmacist. The pharmacist can know them by name. And they can still get addicted to this medication. And they can still be exploited by the doctors.
So they may not be aware that they're being exploited, just following simple protocol and then stumbling into this terrible addiction that's affecting.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, doctors need to be very honest with their patients when they first start taking the medication, because some people need to take opioid pain medications. It's modern medicine. It is a good thing, but it's so easily abused. And doctors need to tell patients that if you're going to be on this long term, it's going to affect you in this way. And they need to be very genuine about the effects, because it can destroy a person mentally and physically getting addicted to this pain medication. And that, combined with the actual pain that they're in, can be a very solitary experience. And oftentimes when people do become addicted to this pain medication, or not oftentimes, every time, the way opioids work is you start to become a tolerance level. Yeah, your tolerance level starts to go higher and higher and higher. So you're at one time suffering the original pain, and now you're suffering from withdrawal.
So in that sense, because your body has become so accustomed to the amount of drugs that you're using, your body needs a higher dosage in order to maintain its natural functionality.
Yes. And the doctor generally will keep you at the same dosage. And sometimes will let you go years not addressing the problem, just keeping you on the pain medication.
Well, that's going to conclude today's episode. I'd like to thank Yvonne Marquez for sharing her insight and her information about the opioid epidemic. If there's anyone that you know that may be struggling, or somebody that you don't know as well that appears to have some problems, it never hurts to ask, asking, seeing how someone is, wondering how somebody is doing, just having that kind of care and watching out for someone. Try to have a pleasant, happy weekend. Again, moving from this topic that's really grim, try to enjoy the time that you have with those you know, and try to enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a pleasant weekend and take care. Have a good night.
Stay up to date with news, interviews, and upcoming show episodes by following Your Moment with Miguel Ramirez on Spreaker.com.